Okay, we're going to have a go at producing some output screens. So I found this nice package from chartjs, and they do radar charts. Here we go, radar charts. And this looks fine. It looks like it'll do what I want. And so I'm going to see if I can get this displaying my data. So I want to get it going first of all. This all looks good. That's the kind of output I want. Here's how we make something go. That looks great. Type is radar. Data I'm going to have to work about. Options I won't bother with just yet. So I want to get this going, and I'm using the documentation. So how to do that? I'm going to keep this. I know I'm going to have to come back to here, but just scrolling up, there's a piece on installation. Let's take a look at that. It's offering me an npm install, which I don't fancy much. Wondering if there's another way to do this. Here we go. That's looking good. CDN, GitHub CDN. Let's try this. Chart.cdn, and it looks like that ought to do it. Let's take that. Copy. So VI output, and let's paste that in. That didn't work. Let me try again. Copy and paste. That's better. So script source equals that, and see what else I need to do. I'm going to probably want to use jQuery eventually as well. Let's look for an example. That's using something else. Okay, so I need to create an element. I need to create a canvas, so I'll just copy that, put it in. 4 different ways of getting the CTX. That one looks okay. There's a bit of JavaScript, so we'll put this in a script node. Script. Okay, so it looks like I'll need that. What else do I need? Here's their example. So I've done that line. I just want to see something going before I invest too much time into this. That code looks good enough. Copy that and paste that in. That's looking good. We'll try that. This won't be a radar chart. This will probably be a bar chart, I expect. Reload. Perfect. Okay, that's doing what I want. Well, it's not doing what I want yet, but we're certainly on the lines. Let's take a look at the documentation for radar charts, which is the one I want. Okay, that looks pretty straightforward. So my radar chart equals new chart, type equals bar. Let's change that to radar. Data label is probably okay. Don't know about the options. Let's see what happens when we change from bar to radar. Write that out and reload. Okay, that's looking good. Okay, that looks like the data. If we look at the data here, this has got 2 data. No, it's only got 1 data set in it. It's 1 data set, and the data here goes down to 3. The minimum value is 3, and yet that's starting at 0. Don't like that much. And yet, can you see here these ticks begin at 0, so it looks like it's auto-scaling. To translate that, 3 is the minimum value. I want that minimum value to be 1 for sure. Otherwise, you're always going to have something there, which I don't think is the right thing to do for a radar chart. And if I look at some of the options, I'm looking for the options data set. Maybe if I just take the options out, it'll be okay. So let's take out all the options and try that. Reload. No, it's still doing it. So I've got to find the option to stop it starting at 0. I'm sure it's here somewhere. Oh, that looks good. Options scale. So that looks similar to what it was before, but not quite the same. Let's take that phrase and add that into our options. So I'm taking care to make sure I have got all my brackets right when I introduce a bracket scale. Reverse equals true. I probably don't want that. Let's try it. Reload. Okay, that worked well, but it's reversed it. Okay, so let's get rid of that reverse use true. And reload. Great. Okay, now I'm going to have more points than that, and my labels are different. So my challenge now is to generate this thing here and generate these labels. These background colors don't seem to be doing anything. In the bar chart, a lot of background colors made sense, but right now I've got this pinkish color, which I'm guessing is the first one. Let's delete everything except the first one. And I'm not going to have any border colors in at all. Let's try that. Reload. Borders was a shame. Borders worked well. Undo. Okay. Let's get rid of these. Notice this trailing comma. Doesn't matter. I quite like that in JavaScript. And reload. Okay, that looks alright. That's alright. I don't want number of votes, but I think I can see how to change everything. Okay, so that's the data. Now I want to get that data from somewhere else, so I'm going to start jQuery. So script source is code.jquery.com/jquery minus 3.1.1.min.js. Slightly embarrassed that I know that off by heart. Okay, that's not a comma, that's a dot. Replace. Let's see if we're still working. And reload. F12. Okay, that was me bragging that I knew it off by heart and I don't. jQuery.com, I'm going to pause. Let's have another go at that. I've copied it into the paste buffer. I think maybe I had a comma. Reload, and now I've got no errors. Okay, so now what I want to do is to that's storing that. I don't want to do this until I've got data. So what I want to do is generate some data from my server and send that across using Ajax. So I want to in $function. So this is kind of my jQuery way of starting. This is the ready function. And all of this I want to do in the ready function after I've made an Ajax call. So I want an Ajax call, and the Ajax call takes in a URL, and I'm going to make that, I'm just call it output.php. Output.php, and the data I'm going to send is I want to check on a particular module. So what's it called? It's called mod code. And the module code, I think I've got data. I'll just find out what I've got data for. And I'll do it now. So tilde mysql tilde /mysql. Find out what I've got data for. Select star from ins res. Okay, that module looks good. So we'll pick up the data for that module. That didn't work. Undo. Insert. Okay, so that's the module I want. I haven't written this output.php yet. And I want the success function. Okay, and that success function is going to basically run this business here. I'm going to create some data. I'm going to get data back from PHP, and I'm going to convert it. Now, I'm not going to try and create this data structure in PHP. So this is the data structure that the chart wants. I'm going to output whatever is convenient in PHP, and I'm going to soak that up. So that's going to come here in D, and then I will try and convert it to this format. So all of this code here is going to go into the ready function eventually. Alright, so let's try and get this output.php going. So output.php has got to get me data based on a module that's coming in. Alright, so when I've done that, then I'll try and glue the two things together. So let's save that and have a go at generating data from PHP. Okay, so I want to create output.php. And output.php is going to generate the data I want. And I'll use that data to produce the chart I want. So first thing, I need a parameter, and that parameter is I want to check if array key exists, something like that. Array key exists. So the parameter I was sending was mod code. So if array key exists mod code in $_request, then we're good. Otherwise we're not. So this is not. Alright, so I'm checking if it's not. If array key doesn't exist, then I'm going to ask for it. So print, and we just want a form, and in that form we've got an input, and the name of that is mod code, and the value is set08101. No, it wasn't. I think it was 08108. Okay, and close the form. Okay, it's not intended to be used like this, so that shouldn't really happen. And then we'll exit as well. Okay, so if that didn't happen, then we've got this value. What I want to do is send an SQL query out. I'm just going to copy and paste some code that I've used previously. So I want to create a connection. Scott and Tiger will do for the moment, and I want to write an SQL statement. Now the SQL statement's quite hard. I'm going to have to practice this. I'm going to start writing. I'm going to hard code to start with. So what I want to do is to select it is start from ins res. No semicolon. From ins res where mod code equals set08101. Let's try that to start with. So take that and paste it in here, semicolon. Well, that didn't work. It's not 101, it's 108. 108. And paste that. Good. Okay, that's too much. What I want to know is the values. So this is each person's response. I want to group that by the question, and I'm interested in 4s and 5s. So if there's a 4 or 5, I want to score 1. If there isn't, if it's not 4 or 5, I'm going to score 0. So let's select this column here. So these columns, what are they called? There's a lot of data there. So QUE code and res value, they're the two that I'm interested in. Nothing else matters. So select QUE code and res value. Okay, that'll do. So that gives me just those two columns. Okay, and I'm only interested in the 4s and 5s. I want to add them up. So let's change this to case when res value in 4 or 5, then 1, else 0, and let's try that. Didn't like that. I've got an underscore in there, don't want that. Don't know how that got in there. Try it again. Semicolon, that's good. So if I get an average of that, so I want these values here, I want the average value. So I want, so in SQL you can say AVG for average, the average value of that. And now we're going to group by, because I'm aggregating that column, QUE code. Let's try that. Semicolon. That's looking good, so I can turn these into percentages, just multiply it by 100. So let's do 100 times that, and that's as V. Try that. Looking good. We've got the scores for each of the questions. We got a ridiculous number of decimal places, but I'm not worried about that. They're percentages. I think that's going to work quite nicely. Basically, I want this data just to be dumped out. So let's generalize this. It's not that. It is anything at all. Close the quote and a semicolon, and I'm going to copy and paste in the rest of my code for this statement. So that's the SQL. You create a statement like that, prepare or die, and then we bind a parameter. I'm copying this from somewhere else. My parameter was called mod code. That's the bind, and then we execute. We get the result, and that's result or die. And the final thing I'm going to do is print out in JSON format all of the data. Normally we have a loop to run around and to fetch all of the rows one after another, but because I know this is a relatively small table, I know how big it is, it's only got 20 odd 19 rows in it, and so I can do I can just fetch the whole lot in one go and dump that out. Let's see if that works. So that's my output HTML. Let's have a new one. But this time I'm going to go to PHP. And it's asked me for my module, and that number's totally wrong. Oh no, it's right. Okay, and it's giving me JSON data back. Everything worked fine, and I can work with this. It's giving me the stuff. It's giving it to me in the right order. The order is important, actually. I'm going to just force it to go to order by QUE. Just check that I haven't broken it. Yep, hasn't changed. No. Okay, something's not responding. Reload. Okay, it is working. Okay, so that worked remarkably well. Let's go back to my HTML. This is me doing the Ajax call. And to start off with, let's console log d, just to see if this is working. So I'll write that out, go back to here, reload. It's taking its time. I've lost all my output, but can you see here, here's that happening. Oh, this is the console, so that jQuery worked. Okay, so that worked okay. Actually, I'm surprised it did because I don't think I specified that it was a JSON call. I'm just going to force in data type. It should be data type is JSON, and the success function kicked off. I've got this structure, but I want to produce this kind of structure here, so I've got to make a thing called data that looks like that, and this is what I've got. So let's try and do the conversion. So I'm going to say var data, don't like that name much, equals, it's got to have a labels thing. So I'm copying this, so it's got to have labels and it's got to have data sets. So labels, start that out as an empty list, and I'm going to add to that. So I've got to add my labels. They're not red, blue, green. They're going to be 1.1, 1.2, and so forth. Data sets, I think I've only got one data set. So because I've only got one module at the minute, I've got one data set, but nevertheless it wants a list. And that list contains a thing, and that thing has got it's got a label, and the label value, sensible label value, would be this here. Okay, not liking that showing up twice, but we'll fix that. So the data has got, no, I've gotten lost. Yeah, no, data sets here, and that's square brackets, so this is things in a round bracket. Inside there's a label, which is that results. What else have we got? We've got data, which is a list, and I'm going to add numbers to that. We've got a background color that I'm not going to bother with. We'll fix that later. It's got a border color, and I decided they were quite nice, and I will put them in, but I'm not going to put them in just yet. So my data structure then has got a label. It's got a list for labels, and it's got a list for data sets. So what I have to do is run through this D structure and fill in labels and fill in this guy here. Alright, so I want a loop to run over the data that I got in. Var I equals 0, I is less than, now the thing that I'm returning is a simple list, so that's d.length and I++. Okay, every time around the loop I want data dot labels dot push the first element of the list, which is di0. Can you see that's di's? So this is the first element, and I want the first element of the first element. Okay. And the other thing I want to update is this guy here, and that is data dot data sets square bracket 0. I've only got one of them. If I was trying to compare two modules, I'd need a second element in here. Dataset 0 dot data, and again I'm going to push, but this time I'm going to push the second value. So that's di1 is going to get pushed in. I think there's a chance that'll work. Let's have a look at it. Console.log data. Let's see if that matches the thing I've got. And I'm so confident I'm going to delete this guy. Write that out and reload. And I've got an error. Can read 0 of under. Okay, output HTML10. So, right, let's put in a breakpoint and try that again. No, I don't want a breakpoint there. I want a breakpoint there. So reload. Okay, so that seemed to work. And let's have a look at data dot data set. Oh, okay. So I've said data sets, but there's no such thing. That's data set singular. That's data sets plural. I have to make this match my example. So I don't know which one is right. That is data sets plural. So I was right here, and I was wrong here. Okay. Let's try again. Reload. Take off that because this can't possibly go wrong. Looking good. Labels. Oh, that's not a label. Data's got one thing in it, and that one thing has got an object, and that. Okay. So there's my labels. They are looking good. Uncomfortable data sets. Shouldn't there have been more to data sets? So data sets is an array with one thing in it, and that one thing, I've lost it. Okay, good. So data sets is an array with one thing in it, and that one thing has got a label, and it's got 19 data values. Those are that's not right. These should be numbers. Oh no, here we go. These are the values. Okay, it's okay except they're strings, and I really want them to be numbers. I wonder if that matters. Okay, okay, the issue is that over the network, This is outputting strings, and I'd like it to output numbers. I could change the PHP, but I can't be bothered. So I'm just going to convert them here. So at this stage here, I can do parseInt. They're not integers. So let's do parsefloat. I've never done a parsefloat. How could it not work? I'm going to parsefloat instead of parseInt. So the labels look like numbers, but they weren't. But the values are numbers. And data sets, data set 0, data, they're numbers now. This is going to work. Alright, so I've prepared the data the way I want it. I'm not going to bother with the options. Yeah, I will bother with the options. Alright, so basically I need to put this code in. So find the CTX, create a chart, equals new chart, type is radar. The data is that thing I just created called data. Do I need anything else? I'll put in the options. Mess that up. I'm getting lost here. Undo that. Options. I need to see both at the same time. Those are my options. So options, it goes scale. So that's ticks. What's going on? Ticks, and it was begin at 0 is true. That's all looking good. My chart is new chart CTX. Okay. And I have to have closed that options thing. I've got to close that structure and close that round bracket. That's looking good. And reload. Oh yes. How cool is that? That's just lovely. And then I can change some options. Yeah, that's worked remarkably well. Okay, I don't much like the size of it. It seems to be a bit big. And it's scaling automatically. Wow, it's gone crazy. I'm really not liking this scroll bar here and this scroll bar here, so I'm going to have to figure out a way to stop it resizing. I think I saw there's a whole bunch of options, and one of them is responsive. I probably want to turn that off. I was looking at the options here somewhere. There's loads of configuration things, and the sizing option almost certainly isn't part of radar. So I was looking at the radar example, this one here. One of these things, chart configuration, that's it. Global configurations, chart configurations. I'm just going to have to read through this to find out how to set things. Things like the X and Y labels apply to a whole bunch of things and labels and data sets. Oh look, responsive is false. I wonder if that's the one. So that's like it's an option of chart instance. CTX. Okay, it is an option here. Option scale. Let's try. Whoops. Let's try putting in responsive as false. I'm sure it's not a coincidence that that was the only one they mentioned. This one here, reload. Okay. Well, that's nice. And its size, I think, is now being controlled by this 400, 400. Let's try that. Let's try 200. Splendid. Okay, 200 is too small. I'm liking that a lot. 300. Okay, reload. Good, and there's that animation. Who doesn't love a bit of animation? Okay, so it is getting the values from here. Don't like that much. Let's give ourselves an input. So I'm going to create an input name equal, no, not name, let's go ID equals mod code, and value is SET08108. So that's my input, and let's do this. We won't hard code that there. We'll get that from the thing that is called mod code, and I'm interested in the val of that. Remember that you use the val of an element. So I've copied that, and I can put that in here, that plus results. And let's have a button to make it go. Button ID equals go. Go. So that's my button. I've got a go button marked go. I'm not liking that. That's better. Okay, and that Ajax call is not going to go on load. It's going to go on button click. So $hash go. So when the user clicks on go, the click event is the function that kicks that lot off. So I really should re-indent all of this. Boom, 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 boom. You think that I'm obsessive, but honestly, you've got to get your indentation right at all times. That can stay how it is. Bring that out and close off the go. Bump, bump. That's going to work. Reload. Okay. Yep. And let's try a different one. What other modules have I got? What have I got data for? Select distinct mod code from insres. Okay, that will just pick another one. That module looks nice. Let's try that one. Go. Okay, isn't that cool? Let's try another one. This is all made up data, it's totally random. But it shows it working. Okay, I'm liking that a lot. Okay, and all of this now, let's delete it. Don't leave code lying around if you don't need it. Tidy up after yourself. That's not bad at all. What's that? 20 lines, 25 lines? Yeah, that's pretty good. I love being able to find something and making it work. You do need to be confident with your programming, basically, because you can't, the data format that they're expecting for a chart like this, the chances of that is the same format as the data that is convenient for you to output. It's absolutely zero. So you've got to be able to do this stuff of, building up a data set that you need. Okay.